Women Who Build series. Welcome back to the Women Who Build series. I am so honored to have you all join us. Look, if this is your first time, I need you to put that in the comments. If you're catching the replay, I know we're switching it up today. I'm bringing it to you on a Saturday live at 11 a.m. And I do not take it lightly that you would tune in this Saturday with me. It is an honor if you're just tuning in and joining us on this journey. At the end of February, we asked everyone if we could get 50 subscribers to just hit that subscribe button and follow our YouTube channel because I felt such a call to really grow this YouTube page this year. And as a result, not only did we get to 50, but y'all, we are live. And in honor of Women's History Month, we have been bringing you the Women Who Build series live. So I'm super excited and I cannot believe it. Here we are already at the end of March, every Sunday at 6 p.m. You've been getting value. I've been bringing women who are building, and we are going to do the same thing today, same time tomorrow. We are wrapping it up Sunday at 6 p.m. But look, I'm leaving. I said, I'm after this episode, I'm going back into the field, but it's an honor just to be able to bring you this series and to be building in real time. Because as I think about our last episode with Allison Perry, who was here with us, I had just came from working in the field, doing windows and cleaning it before we were signing it off to that general contractor to take it over with my husband and with the team. But one of the things, you know what, I dive on in. So for those of y'all like, who is this? Who are you? I'm Jessica Richey, CEO and founder of NC Spotless Pros Power Washing that I get to build right alongside with my husband. I'm also the chief strategist of Richey Workforce Development. So look, last week I came from working in the field to we did a live series to point into my grant mastery intensive community where we're growing all things grants, growth, and government contracts. And so without further ado, I'm super excited to bring you today's guest. Let me tell you, she is a powerhouse in her own right. Powerhouse, that's right. So welcome back again, those who are joining us, for this series, because this is an opportunity to go deeper. And when I say go deeper, as I begin to look for people who are going to come on the show, who were going to be a guest, it was so important for me to find people who aligned. And so our guest today does just that. And I'm super excited to bring you Chief Strategist of Infinity Bridges, LaTasha Best-Gaddy. But before I do that, I want to read her intro. Now, I know it does no justice, so she's going to have to tell us exactly who she is in more detail. But I do want to say it's an honor because I'm bringing you someone who is not just a woman who builds, but y'all, she has been in my life, and I don't take it lightly now, for over 3 years. And so I'm bringing you behind the scenes of our conversations, the things that has helped us help our company grow over these last few years. I call them my secret weapons in the back. And every now and then I go and pull them out. And so I'm super excited to bring her here with you. LaTasha Best-Gaddy is the chief strategist of Infinity Bridges, bringing over 25 years, did y'all catch that, of experience across economic and business development, financial strategies, and community leadership. She serves on multiple boards and committees, including chairperson of the Black Business Alliance for Chapel Hill, Charborough Durham Workforce Development Board member, and board treasurer and co-founder of the NC Employee Ownership Center. She is an award-winning leader, a certified economic development finance professional, and a woman deeply committed to building both business and legacy. She doesn't just lead, she builds bridges that create impact that lasts. So please join me in welcoming our guest today, LaTasha Best-Gaddy. Welcome, LaTasha.
Thank you, Jessica. It is so good to be here and to really be able to talk about women who build, especially this month. March is our month, and there's so much happening when women build things. Someone said yesterday in a session that we were together, we are the birth conduit. As women, and people don't understand that. And I think that's really key. And not just birthing lives, but opportunities, businesses. we inspire others. And that's really, what I try to do. And I love, thank you for the bio and that great introduction. And what I would just say that's not there that is really important for me is I'm a person who want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to build wealth, to live what their life on their terms, and that they have the financial tools to be able to do that. And so everybody's pathway may be different. And that's something that I try to do through listening, trying to be able to then provide information that they can then implement quickly. I don't
Mhm.
want to give something that you have to wait 4 or 5 years or even longer to implement. I want you to be able to even see small wins. And so that's something that's really important. The second thing that's really important to me is this entrepreneurship journey. And this, what I really now consider as kind of economic development backbone of our economy. And that just come from, my background, my family, and for me to try to do something that does leave a legacy for my two children. And so I like to say that I'm raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, or that I have raised the next generation of entrepreneurs because they're not young anymore. But yeah. So
Mhm.
that's a little bit about me that goes beyond the bio and beyond what people see. That goes to who I am as a person and what I think my purpose here is.
My goodness, that was full of just so much juicy information. I told y'all, get ready, get ready, get ready, because drop your favorite takeaway in the comments. Even catching the replay, drop your favorite takeaway. Let me tell you, you are a woman of so much wisdom. And even as you were talking, like yesterday, I didn't know we were at the same event, texting each other before we got there, but it just speaks to who you are in the community. And I love how you talked about the economic development piece, right? So, can you take us back? How did your journey get into economic and business development? How did you begin?
That's a great question. And let me just tell you, it's one of those things where I really didn't realize it at the time. So I'll just be honest about that, right? But I said it goes with the foundation of my family. So I come from a small area. So I'm a North Carolina native, right? I come from a rural area in North Carolina called Sampson County.
Mhm.
And it's so small. I used to tell people that I'm, so many miles from Fayetteville, right? So just and sometimes you do that, right? But what I realize is that the foundation was laid then. And so I'll just quickly share what I think are some key foundational things that I didn't know until later in life, and then how it really began. But those things really kind of began my journey. So first and foremost, I think my family just came from a perspective of, one, we always were instilled that education was key, but also ownership was key. And not just ownership in a business, but ownership in real estate, ownership in, just really kind of having the financial strategies to be able to make maneuver. So, and a lot of times, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So we did have kind of some of those financial talks. It may not have been as in depth as probably other communities or other racial groups, but we did have that to a degree. And so that laid my foundation. So my grandfather um, was what I would probably consider a non-traditional business owner. What he was one of the first African American men to have a used car lot. He also was a pastor. He also purchased real estate and rehabbed homes. And again, this is in a day and age that was non-traditional. And then what I also found out, just through this journey, is that he was an investor into other businesses. So, like when you think about the local doctor, he invested into him. when you think about the local, there was our local board, school board member. He invested into them to make sure they had. So these principles, in terms of ownership, investment, and came from that, right? So now let's fast forward. So uh, and when you said 25, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm old now. But so let's just take those foundational principles that now, and I'll just say my cousins and I generation, we talk about this now, and we see that those foundation principles we all have pieces of, right? So now you fast forward, I came to Durham, North Carolina to attend and graduated from North Carolina Central University. I have an undergrad in business finance. I have a master's in public administration. I have accounting experience. I went on to work in the insurance industry. And through that, I learned other things in terms of where are wealth created and what does that look like in a economic development. So now through those educational pieces, through networking, through these employment and professional opportunities, now I took those key foundational things and then realized that was part of an economic, it's something that was planted. And I didn't realize that. And even now, I've talked to a professional friend who, him and I was just recently talking, and he was like, your mindset was always different. And I think that's something that we have to remember. And I now appreciate that because my mindset is still different. Like I have these greater goals, these things that may seem definitely impossible or unachievable, but guess what? I got to have a vision. So, so now fast forward, I worked in the insurance industry. I worked for nonprofit organizations, and that's where I began to travel across North Carolina, understanding rural versus urban, understanding economic development, understanding business development, really kind of planning and really understanding what small businesses go through, women-owned businesses go through, minority-led entrepreneurs go through, and then I understood disparities. I understood the policy. And when you put all that together and you put that with a mindset, and I've done things around some of the early policies around student loan debt. Like I didn't realize it then, but now I look back at my career and see, man, you've done a lot to change policies, to change, you know, businesses, and that really do impact. And that's something that I was like, this brings me joy, So you want to do something, this gives me purpose. This then says I'm on the right track, but it also then goes to being a good steward of my talent, time, and treasures that, and I'm a spiritual person. So I'll just say, that I feel like God has given me, and being able to also know that I'm doing something that my grandfather will be proud, my mother will be proud, my family will be proud. I don't want to do something, I have to be authentic and transparent to myself first. And I had to then say, what are my things that I'm willing to do? So my journey then began, so it started then, went on through college, went on through my professional career. And again, I worked in nonprofit organizations, insurance institutions, accounting institutions. So that financial piece, I really understood the power of money and how that definitely can change, and what the impact is when, the difference between the poverty lines. And I began to cross across North Carolina, traveling and see, and then realize that, wow, I have a different mindset, or I grew up with a different mindset, and how we can get others. And so, because if you have the opportunity, then guess what? Or the knowledge, and then guess what? We all can grow. So that's kind of the start of it. Infinity Bridges was has been around since 2018. It started as just a training company doing trainings and seminars with small business centers throughout North Carolina today in 2026, it is a three-pronged service provider of economic development, which really economic and business development, which really does focus on making sure that there are good advising services, training services, and entrepreneur ecosystem building. And I do that in partnership and contractual relationships with local municipalities, whether it's city or county government or state agencies, as well as nonprofit organizations, financial institutions, and educational institutions. But the impact to everything I do is to that small business owner. It is to that underserved community because, and I cover the state of North Carolina. Last year, I am happy to say that I also had last year and this year have an initiative that I was working in North Carolina and Chicago. And so the company is definitely growing. So that's kind of that start journey and that foundation. So it started with my family and it started with that seed of having a different financial mindset. And something that's really important is, you know, I say my grandfather a lot, but I just want to say, you know, because women who build, it also takes a strong woman behind that. And my grandmother was that. She was short and
Mhm.
stout, but she was also very instrumental behind that. And so there's a lot that goes into our family dynamics in that. And I think all the women in my family, not just my mom, she had three sisters, so the four of them play a very pivotal role in me being a woman who builds. And I think that's really important. And again, there's so many women that I looked up to over the course of my career, even today, but that's the foundation of where all of this came from. And then I would say in my professional career, the women who really have built a significant and still make a significant impact to me who are passed away was Cynthia Clemens and Andrea Harris. Those two women have just really poured. There's so many, so I don't want to say that they're the only ones, but there's so many. And I think that's something unique about women. It's
Mhm.
just something unique about us. We build, but we also pour into one another. And I think that's why our connection is so strong. Like it wasn't a transactional kind of thing. And we've worked together on several different spaces and places and just begin to really, you know, sometimes, and you just don't know. I will say this to your testament. So, first of all, I've seen your journey and I just celebrate you and I celebrate the opportunity to be a part of this podcast, but be a part of your celebrations that you have done and accomplishments because I remember in the very early days, it was, I'm just not sure, right? And that's all of us. That's nothing, but you also had other ideas. And I
Mhm.
think that's the key that there's not a one way street to just stay in one lane. We have the opportunity to be in multiple lanes, which
Mhm.
is why I love bridges, right? So bridges cross many different highways, places, travel, and bridges is the connecting. And so you have just expanded your bridge, you know, in terms of now you're doing a podcast. Now you've got Richey Workforce, you've got the spotless cleaning, North Carolina spotless cleaning, you know, and so many other things. And so I just don't even want to just limit it to that. But that's the testament of truly being a woman who builds versus a woman who stays stagnant, a woman
Mhm.
who sometimes you just gotta dust yourself off. And let me be honest and transparent. What they say, this has not been an easy road. Life
Mhm.
has definitely not been an easy road. However, I think it's that tenacity to say, I see something greater. I see something bigger, and then to lean in. And I think that's what we do. And then, the one thing I love about women, so I'm gonna just talk to us yesterday. So she mentioned earlier that morning we were texting, preparing for today. I didn't notice what she was doing yesterday, didn't know where she was traveling to and anything.
Mhm.
And she didn't know that for me. So we both were early morning, just trying to get our morning going and just making sure things were together for today. And then I went to it. We both went to the same event, women's brunch, and happened to be there. The beauty of it is then we can then be in community with one another and then say, how can we continue to create impact? And that's what today's about, right? Creating an impact that lasts. And I think that's where we've got to continue to focus, and we got to continue to support one another. And we can all joke around and be like, "Whoo, today is a tough day." But guess what? We can all say, "You know what? But let me push forward further. Let me go a little deeper. Let me continue. Let me." And then I can smile at us at another sister or person and say, "You got this. You got this." And I think we have to do more of that and less of trying to tear somebody down.
Mhm.
That takes so much negative energy for me. And so I always, I call myself, I'll have a pity party for a while, but
Mhm.
then I gotta then turn it around and be like, okay, what's the strategy to move forward? How am I gonna just move this forward? And then here's a beauty of I didn't say this, I didn't create this, so I'm giving shout out. And I told her I was gonna say this on the show. We have to stop saying how I do it and who can help me get it done. I did not say those words, but that was so powerful yesterday that I just thought, and I told Jessica, I said, I'm going to repeat this tomorrow because it just touched me. And I think that's the thing. We have
Mhm.
to remember that we can be in community, we can be in collaboration, we can be in connection, and we don't have to do all the things. We can maybe lean on and say, you know what, this is not in my wheelhouse and I'm struggling over here to get this done. Can you help me? And be okay and not think nothing less of it. And sometimes we don't do that as women in business. So I'm gonna pause because I'm pretty sure I said more. I answered probably more than the question.
You answer, yeah, but it all flowed and it came out because I was going there like, how did you come up with this name of Infinity Bridges? And you answer all of it, and you talked about just the economic development. I always say, life, we hear success leaves clues, but your life did as well. Like you were building it along the way. And back when you were talking about where you're from, and you mentioned Fayetteville, because I'm from originally Lumberton, and so I would always say Fayetteville, Fort Bragg. And my undergrad was Fayetteville State. And so by the time I say Fort Bragg, I'm like, oh, okay, I know where you're from. So I get it. And I love how you showed what it takes with that strong foundation. And being a woman of faith, I love even how you were talking about the bridges, first of all, knowing your name, seeing it. And then, like, when I see you, that's what I feel. That's who you are. It's so authentic. And
Yeah.
that's what I appreciate about you. And for me, being a woman of faith, I love when you were talking about even doing the different things. I'll never forget during the pandemic, and a lot of people don't know, and I share with Richey Workforce Development, that was we're celebrating 6 years this year. But what happened is 3 years ago, when God really led me to really join forces with my husband and grow this thing, we went from no certifications, not understanding government contracting, to over 25 certifications. And Jessica knew how she thought it was going to be built, but God had other plans. And so for me, it looks different. Now I'm able to show other people what it's like you talk about small businesses working together, building together. I am so honored. Like when you were talking about even taking other businesses with you and women who poured into you over the years, and to watch how you pay it forward. Because you do the same thing in rooms with you whenever. And I never forget in meetings, especially every meeting, I see you like she on the computer, she on the phone, but she's here, she's showing up, she pouring, she doesn't stop. And it's like you have to have that rhythm. Like we were talking about it briefly, like people will say like this perfect balance, but I love harmony. My
Yeah.
family sings, and when you hear that 3-part harmony note, it all comes together. You think we've been rehearsing all year long, but no, you show
See,
up and we
I love
sing. You know what I'm saying? That harmony note. And I love how you mentioned, I will say this earlier about um, just women. It made me think about something I heard about recovering quicker,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ty Tribbett had this song. He says, "Only for a night, though. Weeping may come, but only for a night, though. Tears gonna happen. We all experience different trials, different tribulations, but it's how do we overcome it? And I believe, like you said, when we come together, when we partner together, we have so much more impact, and we have to be able to, express it, let it go, but also recover even
Yeah.
quicker. Like recover, give yourself that time, but also give yourself grace. And I believe another big thing is even celebrating the wins. Like celebrate those wins. I tell you, yesterday I wasn't going expecting anything. I said, you know what? I'm marking this off on my calendar because I'm going to be present. And even in the back, I was like, I got to get back here in the corner. So I'll have my computer a little bit look, but I still got to be able to show up. And as a result, my name was called to go up there and play the Wheel of Fortune. And it was funny because I was like, I didn't spend hard enough. And look, won over $300 worth of gifts.
Okay. I mean, and think about the blessing that came out of all of that. And sometimes you just have to show up. And you
Yeah,
do have to show up in uncomfortable rooms as well.
yeah.
I think this is really important, especially I think this week I saw was equal pay, for women, equal pay rights. I think it was Thursday, but don't quote me on the day, but this week. And
Mhm,
so we have to look as women and what our value is. And sometimes we have to know that we don't move the same as men, we don't move the same as others, whoever it may be, and be okay with that. Like sometimes, and I'm in a season where I'm okay with slow and steady, right? I don't have to just get something quick, just for the sake of getting it quick. Or I also am in a space where I don't want to do all the things,
mhm,
so I shared my background with accounting and stuff like that. Well, one of the things that I'm very clear on is I don't want to do accounting services for entrepreneurs. But now, do I know some great people who do? Yes. Do I refer it to them every day, all day? Yes.
mhm,
So there's certain things that I say, yeah, I may have the skills to do, but I have to be okay with what I really want to do. And because sometimes that'll give your own self that stress and that tension. When you're doing something that you're not, it's just Dion McGee calls it your zone of genius. Again, these are things that I don't create, but I'm like, yeah, I want to be in my zone and I want others to be in their zone. So let me help support where I am not as strong. And because that's what we should do. I mean, we all should have our own human code of things, whether our political system have their code or not, right?
mhm,
And this is not a political conversation, but I have realized in life and where I am at this age and this stage in my professional career that I'm going to always be authentic to me, transparent to me, and
mhm,
hold me at the center, even if I have to lose on something that may look like a financial gain. And that's sometimes a hard lesson that we are struggling with, right? But I have just, I mean, even this week, and I just realized, I just say, okay, what is it that I can continue, and then just deal with that. And have I missed out on big financial opportunities? Yes, I have, unfortunately.
mhm,
But here's the thing, and again, this is where faith goes, right? First of all, faith without works is dead. So I put
mhm,
in the work, right? So I'm beyond. I do put in the work. I build.
mhm,
But here's the other thing. I don't want to lead with money first because we can all, continue to grow money and da da da. But I don't want to do anything intentionally. I'll say that to harm a person emotionally, mentally, physically, or even damage their business or reputation. Like that's never gonna be like my integrity. I would say it that way. My integrity of who not only I am, but who my business is more important than charging for every single thing, right? Because I could probably be better off if every time somebody like, let me pick your brain, let me just da da da, and I'm like,
Mhm.
here's an invoice, here's an invoice, and I probably should do better. I mean, I some people I should put more boundaries around, but I think the thing is,
Mhm.
out of all of that, and here's the faith part, I've been extremely blessed. I mean,
Mhm.
extremely, extremely blessed
Mhm.
that opportunities when it needs to be open, they are open. When and for me, I want to make sure that I have more than just the basics. So I'll be clear. I am I like to enjoy life. So
Yes.
let me just be clear to everybody because I don't want you thinking, oh, she's just eating ramen noodles and living in a substat. No, no, no. So let's just be clear. I am probably, as my uncle would say, as bougie as we all can be. So I like to live life to the fullest.
Mm.
Um, at every angle. So I'm definitely, want people to understand that. But
Mhm.
I do think that the blessings come and I can live life the way I want to. I can, you know, invest in the things that we need to. And I'm gonna give one more last example and then I'm gonna turn it back over to you. So here's one of the things that is always my non-negotiables. And it happened with you and I. Same thing happened with you and I. So as y'all mentioned, as she mentioned early, this podcast normally takes place on Sunday at 6 o'clock. Now, she asked me to come, and so let me just be clear. Sundays are my non-negotiable work days. I do not work. That is the one day that, and when I say work, I do mean more outward facing. I may do something, internally or something for me, but outwardly facing. That is the one thing that I try to hold true to me. That is my one day, whether what and that day may be just nothing. It may have a lot done. It may just be me and some close friends going to brunch, whatever that is for me. But that is my one, like, non work day. I don't try to do any sessions that day. I don't try to do podcasts on that day. And it doesn't mean that, I'm not trying to be supportive of anybody that has anything on a Sunday. Not at all. And I have made a few exceptions. I just try not to. And I try to hold that sacred to me. And the reason being is one important thing. And I'm going to say this to every woman, young girl, or anybody that think that they are just out of time. That is your time to rejuvenate yourself, to do whatever it is to replenish yourself and to pour in your own cup. Now, what that looks like for you is definitely probably different from any of us, but you should have at least one day where you are like, this is my day. And it could be reading, it could be sleeping, it could be whatever. I'm not even putting any parameters around it, but that should be a day. For me, that is Sunday. Now, and that is something that, again, have I made some exceptions? Yes. But I try my best to hold true to that one day because otherwise we're working 7 days a week. And let me just be clear, entrepreneurs, we are working 24 hours a day. Why do I say that? Because when you're sleeping, you're still thinking about the next thing, what I need to do, who I need to connect with, what's on my agenda, how do I need to respond to an email, what's on my calendar. I mean, because we're entrepreneurs, our mind is always thinking and rolling. So sometimes you just got to be like, let me just do, when kids, you had a timeout, you had a recess, you need a recess.
Mhm.
There's some things that happen to us as kids that I realize is so key. Like I need a timeout or a recess. And the second thing that I realize I need is sometimes I need a nap. so so there are some things that happen as a kid or a kindergarten or first grade that you're like, I know why they did that. I need that as an adult and be okay. And be okay. So I'll just say, so that's where I'll leave that. And I think that's important for women who are building and trying to create an impact that lasts.
That was so important, and you hit on it. I built something in here specifically around boundaries in business because I loved your response when I asked you that, and I honor that, and I loved it. I was like, yeah, because we need that. It reminds me, I started the year off on a 45-day sabbatical. I usually slow down. I call it slow down to speed up. But you're right. You get so much clarity, and then we keep that. Have that day, like you said, is so important. When I reset, when I get like you get so many ideas, like fresh ideas, and I love that. And real quick, because you mentioned DG McGee, Dion, the roar, the impact is real. It brought us together. And I think back, I was challenged at the time when we first met to get out and find what we call boots on the ground. Where did I find that? At the Women's Business Center. And I found the program INSEP that was being hosted, the economic development INSEP in the program itself. And what happened was she brought in, people who were doing just that. And you think about Eastern North Carolina, then they opened it up to all of North Carolina. And so I was so honored to be a part of that. And that's what let me know at the time, hold up, wait a minute, grants and growth, there is funding available for your business is real. So not only did it bring us together, winning that grant at the time for my business, being nominated and receiving from my peers, most likely to scale. I don't take things like that lightly in 2024. And so that $2,500 opened the door to a grant. We just received another grant for our entire team that Dion is going to do for leadership development and training. And I said all that to say, back to what you were saying, what I love is it's not just me. You have to be in a place where you're willing to partner, right? With other small businesses and create opportunities. So it's so many things, but I value your time. And this segment, I want to give you these questions I had here, and I say, slow down to speed up, right? But
Mhm.
you served on multiple boards. What does effective leadership look like at that level for you?
Great question. So first and foremost, what it means is to really making sure that you're holding the mission and the impact. To also making sure that it's not just a checkbox to a grant or a funding source. Making sure that it's truly being connected to the community, and then making sure you're opening doors for others that want to serve in leadership positions on boards, and things of that nature. I think that's really important. One of the boards I used to serve on for 12 years was the Self Help Credit Union Board, which is $1 billion credit union. And I was board chair at one point, board treasurer. I've served at just different capacities in that 12 years. And one day I was kind of in, I'll just say, kind of a lower moment, and kind of just self-doubting, right? So I wasn't as self-assured that particular day. And I remember going to a board meeting and hearing the numbers. And I was, at the time I was board president, hearing kind of some of the impact that the organization made, and I was leading the meeting. And I walked away and I said, why am I thinking this less of me when I just led a meeting of a credit union that is doing this amazing work across the state of North Carolina, some other states around the East Coast, and from that day I was like, I have value. And so I think that's the key with boards, is just opening the door for others, and then also making sure that it goes deeper than just a checkbox of, okay, this is what we're supposed to do, check the box and keep going. Make sure that there's a true community impact and a sustainability to that.
Yes, I love that. What does it mean to you to move from building a business to building systems?
Whew. Now let me tell you, in 2026, it means that everything, I'm gonna say everything. First and foremost, we have to embrace AI. I know a lot of people are scared of AI. I know you're scared of automations and integrations, but it is a operational tool that will help you for success. And I do think that we have to also put in things for lasting opportunity. So that is part of the legacy. Now, I'm never gonna replace a human person. There's so much more to being human, but remember, we are one person, and there is a limit. I mean, I say owning and operating a business is 24/7, 7 days a week. But again, we have to have those boundaries. So it allows me to maybe have more boundaries, right? And more days where I can be more creative, more thinking, more visionary. And so I think that's the important piece. So, first and foremost, automation and integration. Two, invest in technology tools that is going to definitely help you to the next level. And then three, use artificial intelligence to the advantage of you. It's not going to replace a human being, but what it's going to do is help leverage what you're doing. And it may save you money in doing that. And that's something that I'm really, really working on every day and continue to work on, you know.
Mm. That's good. I love how you talked about saving money because let me tell you, everything adds up, and that's so important. As you think about boundaries in business,
Mhm.
I'm so excited, but I'm also looking forward to hearing your perspective on it. Right, with everything you lead, how do you set boundaries in business? I know you told us some about the Saturday versus the Sunday, but what does that look like for you?
Yeah, so it kind of looks like a couple of things. So first of all, I do try to dedicate certain days which are more client facing, people facing. So I try to be very intentional with my time. I do also have some accountability partners. I have two people that call me out. I mean, they call me out. They'll send a text every morning. I got one today, like, hey, this is what you've got to do to accomplish the day. Like they will, and then so in addition to Sundays, which is just a personal day, but I try to do Fridays as follow-up Friday. So I do not do any meetings, kind of like client work or meetings, or try to overload my schedule on Fridays. Like a conference or something like that is different, or like the brunch we went to is different. But Fridays typically, because we got to have time to do the work. And I haven't gotten good at this yet, but so Fridays I do call my follow-up Fridays, which are the things that I couldn't get to, I couldn't read, I couldn't do whatever that week. And again, this is always again being honest and transparent. Um I'm still working on it, but Fridays is already off. Nobody can schedule something. So any calendar link that you get from me, you will never see Friday available, right? Unless somebody calls me, and it has to be like, oh, we have to meet. Like I did have a meeting Friday afternoon, and I had to have that meeting. So again, not that I won't do it, but I try to set those boundaries. The other boundary that I do try to set is time for family. So I have two young adults that are both entrepreneurs, and so 19 and 23. My mom, and again, I'm very close to my family, my aunts, and so we like to just have fun, laugh, just have fun, just do things together, travel or whatever. And I have friends that we like to travel to. So, your sister girl travel. So however you do call that. So, which is still very, very small group of people. But I do try to make sure that we have that downtime. And here's one that I don't know if you heard it yesterday or not, but somebody else did. And they was like, well, have fun. So this very close knit, it's only three of us. Every probably once a quarter, sometimes we're off on doing it. We have a day we just call tacos and tequila. And now, not that we always go to a taco or have tequila, but that's just our day to just breathe, take a breath, to exhale, and we can just say whatever you want to say. But over a meal or over something that is non-judgmental, and sometimes it's like, we're not giving advice to each other. We're not trying to solve nothing. We are just being in community. So those are some key boundaries that I think I have. Again, I am, as women, we hold multiple hats. So outside of a business owner and my young adults, helping them adult and understand that. But I'm also, I'm my mother's only child. So
Mhm.
caregiver for my mom when she needs it. She's very independent, lives on her own. But there are times where her and I just need to have a moment a day,
Mhm.
and so and it's one of those days where I don't rush her because
Mhm.
she knows and she understands, okay, she got a lot of meetings, she got this, but there has to be just a time again where we're present.
Yes.
So we also got to evaluate what's important and then being present for those things. So yes, my business is important to me. And I have, a couple of other business ventures, but those things are very important. But what's also important to me is making sure that time with my mother or time with my children or time with the ladies, in my life or
Mhm.
time to just do nothing if that is the case as well. So really kind of having some of that, and that looks different in so many ways, and is not a one-stop kind of thing. But that is how I can then reset. And then here's the important piece, and I said it, but I'm gonna just say it again. You have to have somebody in your life that can tell you the truth and hurt your feelings, but it's not in a way to destroy you. It's in a way to just really kind of make sure, like, no, you've got it, but you've got to either stop this or do this or whatever. Like, so it's in a very loving way. And I do have a lot of different people sometimes. And oh, this is what I was going to say about you, and you don't even know this. And well, I think because we've had the conversation a little bit, but I'm gonna say it today, and I appreciate you so much, and I know I got to be careful with my time and talking. But there are times when entrepreneurs that I have helped, similar to you, who have sent a text, an email, or a call or left a message and said something about how whatever I've shared, said, or asked you to implement has impacted you and what a difference that has made, or what that really tells you about who you are. And I value that. I also value when you say, I didn't like the way you did this or said this too. Like, I'm not the person that just only want to hear the good. I like
Mhm.
critique because again, we have to always be a student of learning, changing, growing, and all of that. And there's been several times, you have sent a text of something, and I'm like, man, I needed to hear that today. I thank you.
Mhm.
I thank you, Spirit, Lord, Creator, for even allowing her to just even share that, right? And those things then build something more deeper and meaningful versus a transaction. And I think that's the piece that means so much to me is hearing somebody say that. Or hearing somebody, I took my mom to an event with me last weekend to hear me speak, and it was in the mountains, and so she was like, I'll ride, nobody else want to ride with y'all, ride. And so she did. And she normally, sometimes she'll go with me to hear me speak, sometimes she doesn't. But to see all the people who went, they didn't come to me, so I told everybody that my mom stole the show. But they didn't come
Oh.
to me to say what a great job I did. Some did, but the majority of the people went to my mother and said,
Mhm.
thank you. And
Mhm.
that just warmed my heart because my mom said, wow, I really see what you doing. Like, I'm so
Mhm.
like, not that she wasn't, but it just,
Mhm.
like, see this as adults. And we also like, and then I will say, just because my mom is still my mom, so she also will say, slow down. You're doing
Mhm.
much. Stop. So she's still a mother, you know. So I think those are key. So sorry, because I know
No,
we're
no, 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 sorry. I appreciate it. And I can hang out with you. Look, and I'm telling you, time flies, but it's so much wisdom. And so
yeah.
I wanted to capture this moment. We have offline conversations, but I said, no, I'm bringing you to the forefront because I want The intent is that someone would be encouraged, someone would be uplifted by our conversation today. But before I let you go, I want to do something I call rapid fire. And
Yes.
all you do, you let me know the first word that comes to your mind when you think about one habit that has contributed to your success. What would it be?
Follow up.
Ooh, a book, tool, or resource you recommend.
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon.
One thing you're prioritizing in this season.
Me.
One piece of advice for women who are building right now.
Don't suffer in silence. It takes a village.
So good, so subtle, and so powerful. Last but not least, how can people connect with you?
Sure. So I am on all social media. My website is infinitybridges.com. All social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, as well as YouTube is at Infinity Bridges. And you can find me there. So that is all. And the website is infinitybridges.com. So all those platforms you can find me. I partner with a lot of organizations across North Carolina, so you will see Infinity Bridges in partnership with a lot of different organizations, and what we're growing and developing. And we're growing again outside of North Carolina. So if you're watching this and you have some opportunities that are in other states, please don't hesitate. You never know what that opportunity could look like for us to continue to partner, collaborate, or try to align in some way. So it can look so many different ways.
I love it. Any final parting words for you today as we close out?
Yeah, so our topic today is women who build, creating impact that lasts. I think that one of the things that I want all women to understand is pace yourself. Understand that there are going to be setbacks, there are going to be hills, hurdles. Some bridges are going to be closed, some bridges you're going to find that are open, but just understand. I tell people one of my journeys is when doors close, like there's been opportunities where I'm like, I need to get this. And the door closed. I mean, it just like seemed like nothing. And I mean, nothing will align to be able to make that work. That's a sign. And you leverage your women's intuition on those signs. And then here's the other piece: don't run nobody else's race. Be authentic to who you are. Understand what you truly have your passion, your purpose to do, and run that lane. It's sort of like having that bullseye on what you want to do. And then the areas where you're not are not your zone of genius or not your strengths, figure out who can be that key organization person to kind of get you there. And collaboration, partnership, alignment, alliance, all these kind of words looks different for everybody. It could be in kind of. There's so many different ways. There's not a single way anything has to happen. And then always negotiate. Always stand up for yourself. Always have your voice. Don't shrivel in a room. You own the table, you own the room, and you were meant to be there, whether you realize it or not. I have been in a room with all white males and was like, in the mind, I am in the wrong room for what I'm supposed to do. And it turned out for my good because I had something that every person in that room needed to connect with. So always think you have something that someone needs. And I think that's really important. Lastly, I'll just say, Jessica, I really thank you for this opportunity to always just stay in connection and community and share all these little nuggets, but also just to support. I do some other I've been a guest on other people's podcasts before. And so I just find that of value. And so for women's, month, and being able to really look at women who build, creating that impact that lasts, this is just a testament of where it's going to go. And I know that it's going to continue to do great. So I thank
Mhm.
you. I, support, and I hope that, we will see by next month. Like you said, you had 50 to subscribe. Now it's going to be more than that. It's going to double and all of that. So I put that in the atmosphere for you. I put that, so that you can continue. And I know you're going to have some events and conferences and all kinds of wonderful things that will continue to build. And build means multiple levels building. That's the other piece. Don't just think about it in one lane. It may build in real estate, investments, business ownership. So build may be several different ways. There's no one way to build.
Mm. Woo! And with that said, come on now. Look, I told y'all I'm not playing in this season. Look, one of my coaches said to me this week, she called when we talked, and she said, you know what, one thing I can say, because she constantly reminds me to leverage my experiences. And she's like, you are getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And so I have to bring my heavy hitters to you. So LaTasha Best-Gaddy is a heavy hitter. I encourage you, connect with her. She's provided all the ways you can do just that. And I thank you for hanging out with me on a Saturday
Yeah.
morning, for your yes, for showing up. And I'm looking forward to all the things that you are also going to continue to do to be a part of your journey, to push you and support you in any way that I can. And for everyone, thank you again for tuning in as we wrap up, as we close. Join me tomorrow. Look, time flies, for the grand finale, a grand reveal where I'm going to be going deeper about just this as women who build. We've already talked about different lanes of building and how you can continue to do the same thing. Join me live at 6 p.m. Thank you and have an amazing day.